Well, good morning, good noon, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It is your Olinda here again, bringing you the new episode of Opera Wars Season 2. And, well, can't believe it's already late June and July is coming, of course. And I was willing to attend the American Modern Opera at Lincoln Center. I think Anthony Ruth Costanzo and a bunch of other AMOC singers, they're bringing this opera called what is it called? The Comet and Popeye, which I didn't get a chance to get the ticket because I was too late to try to buy it. But however, I do think I can somewhat found the live broadcast of it. I'll try if I can, but if I can't, don't blame me on anything, right? Well, long story short story long, I realized that I have a bunch of stuff that I actually wrote the script, but I never got a chance to go over, especially Strauss, Diffel ohne Schotten. Well, excuse my German pronunciation. I really want to do that, but I'll try to get it next week. And today, we are talking about one of the most historical, intense, and, let's be honest, dramatically ridiculous opera out here, Tchaikovsky's The Queen of Spades. And, of course, no one can debate me on this, is that Tchaikovsky is probably one of the most known composer, of course, but especially for the fourth season, that nowadays everyone is filming it with as the background music for some like TikTok videos, and people that touch a little bit of classical music might know his concertos or like piano compositions. And what I want to try to say here is that the Queen of Spades is not something that everyone knows, but certainly it is something that most people knows. So here's the story. Queen of Spades is an opera in 3 acts based on true story by Pushkin, and it is pure chaos in the best way. We have this main character, Herman, is a soldier who becomes completely obsessed with the secret, and then he falls in love with this girl named Lisa, who happens to be the granddaughter of this ancient countess who's supposed to know a magic 3-card secret that guarantees success at gambling. I'm not too sure if me, currently at 16 years old, I never get a chance to upload the bio of my podcast. Yeah, I was 14 when I started doing podcasts, but now I'm 16. Yeah, I just had my birthday a few days ago, so yeah. So let's go back to the story. I should not be talking about gambling, but however, it's classical music, it's opera, we have every element here. So instead of like living a normal life, Herman spirals into total madness trying to get this secret like tools, the secret techniques of being successful at gambling. So it kind of involves like sneaking into rooms, confronting ghosts, breaking hearts, and like everything ends up pretty badly, and Herman loses everything, Lisa dies, and the only winner is, ironically, the Queen of Spades herself. So what does this tell us? No gambles. Don't gamble at all. Okay, please. Don't gamble. Gamble will destroy your life. Even like small amount. Okay, so don't. Tchaikovsky composed The Queen of Spades in 1890 during one of the most creatively intense period of his life. He worked with his brother Modest Tchaikovsky, who adopted the libretto from Pushkin's short story, but changing several elements to kind of deepen the story a little bit and to add depth to this opera, because at all the goal for that period was, even till nowadays, to attract audience and have more people to pay for your stories. And yeah, so come on, to deepen the psychological complexity of the characters, this entire opera was composed only in 44 days, and the premiere took place in St. Petersburg at the Mariinsky Theater. This opera kind of brings the romantic passion, which is what Tchaikovsky is good at, with this psychological horror that carries a lot of personal undertones, especially Herman's inner torment, which many scholars believe to reflect Tchaikovsky's own emotional struggles. So culturally, the Queen of Spades has always been a strange, powerful aura around her, because in playing card symbolism, the Queen of Spades can represent some sort of intelligence, independence, and a danger, because she's a woman who doesn't play by society's rule. And in Russian folklore and literature, she sometimes take on supernatural traits connected with fate, death, and mystery, and Pushkin tapped into that when he wrote the original story, and Tchaikovsky kind of deepened it. And the Countess in this opera is more than just a grumpy old lady, but she's a walking symbol of like fate and luck, and the past haunting the present. And the fact that her ghost returned to seal Herman's fate, that just proves she is never just a person, but like a whole force of fate or whatever. And when you look at the characters in the story, it becomes really clear that everyone is trapped by something. Herman is trapped by his obsession, Lisa by longing for something deeper, and the Countess by her past and the legend that surrounds her. And this opera shows how people reach for control over love, money, and destiny, and lose themselves in the process. What's tragic is that none of these people are necessarily evil. They were just flawed, desperate, and operating in a world where emotions are heightened and fate feels inescapable. And that's why this opera hits so hard, because it's about human nature pushed to the edge. So now I also want to get into what makes this opera so emotionally devastating, but also so addictive to watch, because it is composed by Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky's composition is, as always, heartbreakingly gorgeous, and there is the sense of rising tension throughout this whole thing, like the orchestra is just holding the breath with you. And unlike his more romantic works like Using Energy, this one has a much darker color, and the way he writes for Herman especially is fascinating. It goes from lyrical to frantic to full on deranged, and you feel every second of the scene. So let's talk about the singers. So the role of Herman is a beast, and the tenor basically never leaves the stage, and his lines only gets harder and more unhinged he becomes. And in the Met's most recent production, of course the one I watched, on June 7th, we have Arsens Sumanayan playing Herman. And honestly, I think he did something well and something that I want to criticize. His interpretation of Herman is more on the manic side, and there is a raw edge to his delivery. But I think one thing I must point out is the acting. I don't know how many times I criticize the singer's acting. Of course, this necessarily isn't their like first priority, but I think on the stage of the match, right, you have to ensure that you actually handle like both the singing, the musical part, but also your acting is all about the energy that you're giving. Yeah. And honestly saying, Herman is not a very easy role for any tenor, just because how this entire opera, uh, including the intermission time, is like 3 hours and 45 minutes, and Herman is essentially always on the stage, so it's pretty hard. And Lisa was sung by Sonia Yoncheva. She is always one of the Metropolitan Opera stars. She was debuted, I think, in 2013 with the Royal Gilda in Rigoletto. And I think one of the most memorable performance she gave me was back to 2015, which is exactly 10 years ago, in Otello by Verdi, right? She plays this role of Dalmona, and it was kind of an incredible performance. But talking about today, she has that weird mix of control and emotional vulnerability. And when she sings Lisa's big moment, like the final scene before her death, it cannot just trap you because her tone is so rich, and that even when she's singing in a more restrained way, the sound feels full and sincere. So she kind of carries the emotional aspect or arc of Lisa beautifully. And even though I didn't say the name when I was going over the synopsis, but we have Maria Burakova playing the role of Pauline, and why I mentioned about her is that she brought the warm mezzotone to the role, and she is not a main character, but her sings give a kind of peaceful balance in the middle of all the chaos. And we also have Prince Yalowski, Lisa's poor, honorable fiance, was performed by Igor Golowatenko, who debuted in 2019 with the same role, and he is a Russian dude who kind of displayed a Russian culture. Finally, I guess, he kind of gave a pretty much understandable performance at the night, and his aria, Yavis Lubuyu, I Love You, was pure lyrical beauty, and this is a real contrast to Herman's Spiraling Madness. And of course, the Countess was played by Violetta Urmana, who I don't have much comment on. I think she's just fine, I guess. So, yeah. As for the orchestra, we have Carolyn Wilson conducting, who is a Canadian conductor, and surprisingly the wife of Peter Gelb. Yeah. Why should I even say surprisingly? I kind of don't want to judge her just because she's an IMG artist and her wife is Peter Gelb, but some questions I'm of course having is some concerns around her conducting skills, and okay, I know her before she conducted this. I know her through the Ukrainian Freedom Orchestra, because back then when Russia and Ukraine was fighting, Ukraine Freedom Orchestra was like in New York City at some point, right? And I feel like I just have some serious concern regarding her conducting skills. Yeah, I don't know where can I start, but there's too much to it. Just she needs to watch her Beethoven skill. I don't know. The tension is kind of wrong, and the pacing was kind of in between too tight and too loose. Especially in the third act where the orchestra's texture is kind of muddy, and her approach needs more clarity. Even like that became worse in the later, more chaotic ensemble things. Yeah. So let me just say, Act 3 is terrible because everything falls apart and the ghost appears and Herman bets everything loose and basically have a mental breakdown in real time. And I feel like that's one of the harder act to do. But what I want to say here is that some conductors are definitely in control of it. But what she needs is the sense of control over over the sense of tragedy. Is more about how can you make the chaos clear? How can you make everything sense? This and that are happening, but can you put them in a logical way through conducting and reassemble the composition into something that resembles the artistical brilliance or the composition itself, Or if you can't do that, can you just do the basic beats and let the instrument players free drive it, please? Okay. So in summary, I know this already passed, so I can't do any sorts of advertisement on this. But what I want to say here is that The Queen of Spades is, of course, an amazing opera. Not really sure how would I judge the singers and also especially the conductor. But itself definitely worth you to watch it. And I can just insert some versions that I do recommend in the bio of this podcast. And yeah, just supernatural storytelling was really interesting. And yeah, I like Tchaikovsky. Does anyone don't like Tchaikovsky? I don't think so, right? So yeah, as always, thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or opinions on what I said, or just want to talk to me, please email me at aulindatang@gmail.com. It is aulindatang@gmail.com. See you in my next episode. Bye.